Tom, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Let me start with the Clayton Kershaw interview. I know it's not the same as last year, or the injury, that you had the herniated disc last year, and now you had this injury this year. Is anything related, connected to what happened last year to this year with his pitching style, or are they separate issues?
Well, we can only go by what the Dodgers are telling us at this point, that Kershaw doesn't have any numbness or tingling going down his legs like he had last year, and obviously it was disc-related. They're saying this is more muscular, but still it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks before they get this guy back on the mound. So I think that the injury pattern here would be concerning. I actually think that Clayton Kershaw's mechanics are really sound. Now, they're a little bit funky with that little hesitation, that hitch he's got. But he gets to the release point as well as anybody in baseball, and certainly more consistently as anybody in baseball. I just think it's a function of a guy who's going to be 30 years old next year who, in this day and age, let's face it, he's about as much of a workhorse as there is in baseball. Pitching in the postseason, I think this is wear and tear for a guy who's also known, by the way, as one of the hardest working pitchers in baseball when he's not on the mound. So I think it's a case where his body is just saying, time out, I need a break.
All right, what does the injury do to the Dodgers in their game plan at the trade deadline?
Well, I think they were looking around the margins of starting pitching, but now with Kershaw down, I think they have to be much more aggressive because really their rotation, they don't get innings out of anybody, even Alex Wood. Beyond Clayton Kershaw. So that kind of built-in 8-inning start you got out of Kershaw and what you plan to get in the postseason may not be there. I mean, let's face it. The guy takes 4 or 6 weeks off. He did a great job last year coming back from it. But, you know, who knows if you can count on him being the exact same pitcher when he comes back. So right now the trade market, Dan, is really swirling around the starting pitchers. You know, it started out the Cubs jumped the market and got Quintana. Then Sonny Gray was the best guy out there. Now you have the Tigers shopping Verlander, and you have the Rangers shopping Darvish. So now all of a sudden, the Dodgers have a need, and they have options.
Okay, it's one thing to put these players out there. It's another thing to pull the trigger on either trading them or trading for them. Who's more likely to be moved and where?
Well, I agree with that. But first of all, Verlander, let's not forget, he's got a complete no-trade clause. I happen to think he's a really good fit for the Dodgers. He is not just because he has a home there, but I think right now he's throwing the ball really well. There were a bunch of scouts at his game last night. The Astros were there, the Cubs were there, the Dodgers were there, and he threw the ball great. I mean, he had 98.8 miles an hour last night. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. His ERA didn't look great, but he's throwing the ball really well. I like him in L.A. I like Sonny Gray in Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's got a window here. These things don't come along all the time. Just because you're planning on next year doesn't mean you punt this year. And Darvish, I'm not sure, Dan. I think what's happening is the Rangers see what the market is for these guys, and they're still on the cusp for the wild card, 3.5 games out. But I think what they're saying is bring us your best offer, knock us out, and we will trade him, and we'll also try to sign him as a free agent in the offseason, kind of the way the Yankees did with Chapman.
We're talking to Tom Verducci, Major League Baseball Network analyst, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. How many teams right now do you think can win the World Series?
I'm tempted to say 2 because Houston and the Dodgers have been so much better than everybody else in their respective leagues. Obviously, baseball postseason is really something that's unpredictable, so we can't go just by regular season. But those are 2 clear favorites. Otherwise, I would say maybe – it's just a handful, Dan. I know that 10 get in, but I can't say everybody's got a shot at winning the World Series.
Okay, I know you wrote a book on the Cubs with this magical season, but what has gone wrong, and can they right the ship and still win another World Series?
Well, starting pitching has gone wrong, and that's why I thought the Quintana trade was brilliant. Theo Epstein got out in front of the market, and he got at the time the best available pitcher he could get. He's already made an impact. But, you know, I looked at Arrieta and Lester, Lackey, even Hendricks before he went down with the injury. All their velocities were down from last year. And maybe that's because they pitched that 7th month. But the starting pitching, which was the best in baseball at the All-Star break last year, was about 17th. So, you know, listen, they haven't hit with runners in scoring position. The bullpen has been spotty. But to me, it's all about their starting pitching. And there's signs lately because of Quintana that they're starting to turn that corner. They've got Hendricks back now. He threw the ball okay his first time. I think he'll continue to get better. So, yes, I think the Cubs still will win that division. They're not the runaway team they were last year by any means. I think maybe even 87, 88 wins can win that division, and they may wind up there. This is not a juggernaut like it was last year.
Giancarlo Stanton, I don't think he ends his career in Miami. That's such a long deal. But is he available sooner than later?
It's a great question. I know obviously teams would like to have him, assuming the Marlins pick up some of that contract. But I just think the ownership situation there, the sale is still in flux, is something that may hold up any potential deal.
Okay.
I agree with you, Dan. I don't think he's living out the contract there. It's a huge contract. It eats up a tremendous percentage of the payroll in a market that's not a major market. He's another guy, no trade clause, by the way, so he can control where he goes. But I just think at this point during the season, not knowing who the next owner is, whether the owner wants to start with Stanton there or not, too many variables to think he's going to get traded now. But be prepared this winter, certainly, for a lot of rumors about Stanton getting moved.
Is Michael Jordan still trying to be in the mix here to become a baseball owner?
Yeah, he's like Derek Jeter's Magic Johnson, if you will. Not throwing in a ton of money, but it sure looks good to have him on that portfolio when you present it to Major League Baseball. And here's my investors. The names Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan jump out, right?
Yeah.
And I think that helped the Dodgers bid. But the Dodgers bid, I got to tell you, the Guggenheim people, they won the bid because they had so much cash in the deal. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to win out in Miami. And, right now the Marlins, Jeffrey Loria doesn't have the number that he wants in terms of getting up to 1.2 or 1.3 billion. Jorge Mas seems like the leader, but he wants an exclusive window to negotiate the final end game to this. That doesn't look like that's going to happen. So Jeter's still in the game with Jordan. There's no question about it, but so are two other groups.
Can now I thought when Tebow was in lower single A that he was still going to make the Mets September call up, and I know it was a long shot then. It's not as long of a shot now, but you've already had management come out and say that Tebow would not be brought up. Do you still think that no matter, let's say the Mets are completely out of it, can you see a September call up for Tebow?
I can, and I know people would be outraged about it. It's a dog and pony show. But then September for a team out of the race, when rosters expand, you are literally not taking a roster spot from anybody. He wouldn't be an everyday player at all. I think it would be, and you can't even say it's a way to sell tickets because, again, you go to the ballpark, you'll get to see him take BP. You're not going to see him in a game. So, but I think, he's done everything the Mets have asked. He's been a good soldier. He's worked hard. There's no question he's gotten better. He's not a real, true major league prospect. I'm not trying to tell you that. But where's the harm in bringing him up and rewarding him for what he's done for the organization? So I'm with you. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there is a possibility. Yes, I wouldn't rule it out completely.
And a final story here. I know it's more local with the Red Sox with David Price, Dennis Eckersley, the Hall of Famer who's a broadcaster with the Red Sox. He has a style where maybe a little too critical of the hometown team. David Price stood up to Eckersley when he was boarding the plane, I think, and teammates applauded Price and basically wanted to kick Dennis Eckersley's rear end. Is there more to this story? That I understand baseball players are pretty thin-skinned, but Eckersley's job is to be Eck, and these guys have a real problem with it. Are there apologies coming or anybody losing jobs here?
So far, no apologies. I don't think any are coming at this point. It's been, almost a month. The Red Sox say it was handled internally, but that doesn't mean there was any apologies from David Price to Dennis Eckersley. And I'm with you. I mean, it seems like we can only go by what we know, right? It seems like it's a story that maybe there's more to it. But from what we know, David Price's actions were indefensible. You just don't treat people that way. There's a way to handle things. If the announcer is too critical, and let's face it, that's his job, right?
Yeah.
His job is to give his opinion and analysis, and he does that very well. If you have an issue with the man doing his job, what you do is you pull him aside, you talk to him one-on-one, man-to-man. But if you want to make yourself look a lot bigger in front of your teammates, you air him out on the team plane in front of everybody else. I thought that lacked class. I thought it was the wrong thing to do. I don't know how you defend it. You have a problem with Dennis Eckersley, you bring it up with him in private one-on-one.
Any player ever approached you about something you wrote or said?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like being a referee, right? You don't want to be noticed, but every once in a while you do the job long enough, you're going to get called out.
Did it ever get close to go time that somebody wanted a piece of you? Are they really that mad?
Shouting. Well, it's kind of the favorite play out of the playbook for players is to yell at writers in front of others. So I can't say what David Price did is anything unusual. But, I got to tell you, you're always prepared for things escalating. It never really got close, but at least in your mind, you're like, well, I don't think I can really take this guy, so I hope it doesn't go any farther than this.
Wait, give me the name there.
There's actually been a few of them. I'd say there's probably 3, but probably the loudest one in front of other players was David Justice. That was years and years ago in the Braves clubhouse.
Yeah, you couldn't take him.
Thank you.
Nothing personal, Tom. You couldn't take David.
You didn't even hesitate.
No, I did not. No, I did not. Hey, thanks. Tell the boys we said hello and have fun tonight. Thank you, Tom.
You got it. Thanks, Stan.
That's Tom Verducci. He'll be joining Matt Vasgersian and John Smoltz tonight. Rockies Cardinals MLB Network at 8. He's got a new book, The Cubs Way, available in stores nationwide.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.